Have I watched the
Ukraine updates?
I guess like the latest stuff I've seen, Wagner continues to troll the Russian army. The guy that's like on the ground running Wagner made this stupid video where he's like, "We have conquered Bakhmut." They don't call it Bakhmut. They've renamed it some Russian name, but he's like, "We've conquered Bakhmut. We're pulling out and we're turning over all of our food, all of our ammo, all of our emplacements to the Russian main army. They will have all of that stuff. That we're turning it over to them and control of the city. And just in case they need any help, I've got two of my best here, Ditov and Nikov. Boys, come here. These guys were instrumental in taking the city. They almost did it single-handedly, and they're two like fuck-offs. One's like 19 and like and the other's like way too old to be there. He's got like a big bushy white beard, and they look scared. They do not want to be part of his propaganda video, but they have to be. And they're like, you boys are gonna stay behind, and you teach the Russian main army our ways. You keep them in line and help hold the city. Can you do that? Can you help the Russians hold? And they're like, yes, comrade. Yes, comrade general. And it was funny. I love that they're trolling each other. They're giving each other a hard time about that. I saw that I guess our JDAMs, which is GPS guided munitions, big bombs strapped to the jets of the Ukrainians, have been getting scrambled by the Russians a good bit. They don't know if they've been rendered ineffective because of Russian jamming or because of how low the Ukrainians are flying their planes. I guess F-16s are kind of on the way. Mm-hmm. So we're like couple hundred Leopards. I learned all about the Leopard tank today.
Like they prove the F-16s, and then it'll be like September, and I still won't see them.
Yeah. A third Russian scientist has been put on trial for treason, or charged with treason, I should say. What I read about that was it was because of they had sold secrets to China. At least one of them was the charge against him, at least.
Now China will have missiles that don't work.
Yeah, I know. It's always fun. I don't watch as much of the drone footage anymore. I think my bloodlust has been sated.
Nice vocabulary, though. I'm digging it.
I don't need to see any more people get blown up, I don't think, unless they do it in a cool way. You know, when those Leopards get there, maybe they do some interesting stuff. I like the videos where they superimpose countries' flags on top of the vehicles and troops.
Yes.
And it's like, here's the Russian tank and here's his troops. The troops are 20 yards away in the bushes. I guess there was a miscommunication because the tank just blows them all up with a high explosive tank round, and then their little icon goes. It's like, man, y'all are kind of mean about this.
Yeah, dude. So the Russians invaded Russia.
The Ukrainians invaded Russia. Yeah, they and there's a bit of scariness at the White House. There's an investigation going on right now into whether or not American equipment was used to invade Russia proper. Invade in quotation marks.
So I think I might have read more about this. The Ukrainians armed two groups of Russian freedom fighters. By the way, one of the groups, Nazis. So, but friend of our friend and whatever. And these actual Russians. Nazis? Yeah.
Oh man, life is so funny. right. So they're like swastika it up.
Here's the best part, Taylor. Here's the best part. You know where some of the weapons that the Nazi unit will be using are coming from?
No, Germany.
Yeah, Israel.
So
okay.
They absolutely used American equipment. There were some Humvees, and I don't know if there was any armored equipment, but yeah, they used American equipment. They weren't Ukrainians doing it. Of course, they weren't Americans doing it. There's questions as to what level of approval they had. Clearly, they were armed by Ukrainians. That is not in denial. But they're like, did Zelensky actually know? They're like some of the attacks in Russia, and this one, like some of the deeper attacks in Russia where they take out oil refineries and such. There's some thought that these guys are Ukrainian military leaders acting somewhat independently, or plausible deniability. It's hard to tell. And then these two Russian groups that invaded Russia and took over like 3 towns for 2 days. They're Russians who just hate Putin, but given that they're armed with like Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles and American Humvees, they're obviously supported by Ukrainians. And they're just like, take our shit, go in.
So we might be talking about 2 different instances of things happening, because the one I'm thinking of is to call them Russians. They're in a part of Russia that used to be Ukraine in 2014. So they don't think of themselves as Russians. They think of themselves as Ukrainians who have been under siege for the last 10 years or whatever. But I think the White House said they were investigating whether any U.S. equipment had been used in going over there. That's kind of a no-no.
Investigation need not go much farther than Reddit. It's pretty clear. It's like they film themselves doing it in Hummers.
Well, that's no good. They shouldn't be doing that. I don't like that at all. I think a key part of this has to be, and I know it's a silly line to draw, but I don't think it's a silly line if you're a Russian. I don't want F-16s flying over Russia. I don't want American bombs being dropped in Russia.
No shit.
When you're on this side of the fence, we got beef. You step outside the ring, I'm not going to pull a Khabib and just lose my cool and jump over and start smashing Dylan Dennis or something. Just he's in Russia prime. I can't go over there.
I'm mixed. I liked it as a tactic because right now what's happening is Russia isn't defending their own borders. Russia gets to spend all of their troops in Ukraine pushing that new border, pushing the front lines. So by arming some Russians to go attack Russia, it's like, all right, it's not us attacking you, kinda, but now you have a big border that you need to put people on. Ukraine spends a lot of resources defending places where there's barely any battling. Why? Because if they don't, then Russia will roll in with 100 tanks and take that over. So Ukraine needs to defend their entire border, but Russia gets to choose where they attack, which, by the way, made me see something like D-Day in an entirely new light. Like, man, it must have been hard to defend everywhere. And then we get to choose where we attack and put all our forces in that one spot. So now the Russians, if they do this a couple of times and they say they're going to do it again, the Russians, that rebel Russians, or say they're going to attack Russia again, Russia has to be like, well, fuck, I guess we'll take 100 tanks and put them across the border so that we can respond somewhat rapidly.
That CIA guy, he was talking about the early days of the conflict. He's like, every day you hear about a little fire or some train tracks, or this burned down, that burned down, this guy fell out of a building, this guy drowned. He's like, it's clear that there's like a target list that had already been made, and it's being worked through by agents behind lines, starting fires, assassinating people, destroying infrastructure. And obviously Russia doesn't talk about it a lot, but if you're just on Reddit, every couple of days you're like, massive fire. You see like this huge complex, and it's aero defense contractors, it's munitions plants.
Ukrainians are hilarious. Every single time they say Russians have awful smoking habits and they shouldn't smoke near the flammable things.
Yeah, every time they burn a Russian factory down, they're like, those Russian factory workers and their cigarette disposal. Jesus.
So careless.
Do Russians smoke a lot? Is that a stereotype?
Yes. Yeah, that is a stereotype.
Who are the smokingest people? Because I bet it's an Asian country.
Some kind of Asian, for sure. They love smoking.
Vietnam. I say Vietnam. That's my bet. Vietnam, or maybe like Singapore for some reason. I want to think somewhere down in there, but I'm going to go with Vietnam.
Is like where you'd see those pictures of like 6-year-old kids like ripping darts.
Away. Yeah. Got a lucky strike.
Yeah, Lucky
and
Strike.
Lucky Strikes and napalm scars.
Dude, I saw Lucky Strikes at a gas station within the last year or two, and I really thought like I should buy a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes. I didn't even know they had.
Just from Mad Men.
Yeah, they look
just
nice,
from Band of Brothers. Isn't that?
Okay. It probably is. I think Mad Men. Yeah,
Matt, you're 100% right. Yeah.
That's the smoke of the 40s, Timmy.
So the Ukrainians lost Bakhmut, but I don't know. There's still this big counteroffensive looming that hasn't really happened yet. We'll see what happens.
Wish we knew how many Ukrainians had died. I wish we had accurate numbers on both sides. And I don't want anyone to think I'm too foolish here. I realize that we're getting the Ukrainian side of things always. So you don't hear about the bad stuff that happens. And when you do, it's framed in a way. It's like, fucking Alexei Gumanov fucking gave his life for the glorious nation, and then they play a song or something. And I mean, it's sad or whatever, but it's like, well, what happened? How bad of a battle did you guys lose? So I don't know.
I listened to so much Ukrainian propaganda; it felt like good news every time they lost another 100 meters. And
they played for every foot with blood.
This is essential. We cannot lose Bakhmut. We didn't want it anyway. Like that's how everybody
in
always
fairness, they
frames
never
it.
said Bakhmut was important. And I said this like a month ago. I was like, here's what's going to happen. And it did. Ukrainians are going to say this was a win. We bled them dry. They cost them 1,500 tanks and 100,000 soldiers, and they paid way too big a price for something that didn't matter. And the Russians are going to say, yeah, but we won. And both sides are going to claim victory. And that's what's happened.
Yeah.
And I can't tell the truth.
I mean, I remember like stuff about how important Bakhmut was last year. Like there was a time,
I don't.
Yeah, where they said it was important tactically, like because it, protected, I guess, 2 different split offs where you could go from there. Like that was a big narrative about it.
They're still there. I think they're just still
those other
there.
cities are elevated, and Bakhmut is like in a valley, and they're like, you can't attack those cities from Bakhmut. Now, maybe missiles don't care about elevation. I don't know. One thing I've learned during this war is how little I know about how to wage war. I am watching these pincher movements and surrounding. I'm learning about operational surroundment, which means you surround 3 sides, but you can get artillery that reaches the 4 sides, and now they basically have to die as they leave. I'm learning all this shit, and I see, let's say you've got this big sea of bad guys, and then they penetrate in on 2 sides. They're like, aha, they're surrounding these guys in the middle. I'm like, yes, but they're each surrounded themselves. Why is their surrounding better than your surrounding? I don't understand. I just learned that I do not understand how war works.
I'd like to see a war between people who don't fight all the time, like Russia, Ukraine, kind of predictable.
This is great. We've
won.
I disagree. You
don't want to see a brand new war? How about Japan versus Australia?
My whole life we've been fighting the sand people, dude.
It's a good one.
You wouldn't like to see Japan versus Australia? What's your bet?
Japan.
All out war. And you say Japan wins?
100%.
US is not allowed to join. US has no.
I was going to say whichever one US bans.
Yeah, US is
Japan,
not in it.
Japan destroys Australia. Destroy us. Australia is so fun. We made them buy our nuclear submarines, which they have no real use for.
Yeah,
so it's like what are they used for? And they're like, their worry is China. What we want Australia to have nuclear submarines because they're next to China.
Yeah.
The Australians are like, well, wait a minute, what are we going to protect with them? Well, the shipping lane to China, of course. Wait, from who? The Chinese. How much do these cost? 34 billion each. We'll take 6.
Yes, you will. You don't have an option.
You don't have an option.
You see, Australia, you are a vassal state of the United States, and you do what we say.
Yeah, I know I saw a bunch of those Patriot missile systems got bought by maybe Japan. I think they bought a bunch, or maybe Taiwan did. Yeah, it was Taiwan. I learned more about how that thing worked. Okay, so you've got like it's multiple pieces, all of which are about the size of a semi truck. One of them, there's some dudes inside of it, like operating it. But then, like 10 kilometers away, everything's separated by like 10 or 12 kilometers. Each pod of that. They're real, and a lot of it is missiles that shoot, but some of it is the detection radar, right? The part of it that senses things, the sensors, the shooty part, and then there's like a command module. Oh, and then there's a part that powers everything. There's like this crazy generator part that's nothing but like high duty generators being fueled up, and it's all connected up, I guess. And I want to say they hit one the other day, but the Russians did, but they said it didn't damage it. They talked about the accuracy of the Russian munitions because lately they've been targeting the Patriot missiles in particular. Like instead of hitting the city or a building or the defense ministry or whatever, they're just trying to take out the Patriot missile battery. And they said the accuracy on the Russian missiles was about good enough to hit a 5-story building. So, and they're trying to hit something the size of a box truck, so it's just not working out.
Okay.
I think that a hot spot in our fucking economy has to be the fact that I hate that they don't sell this Ukraine thing correctly, because they say the U.S. gives this and that. U.S. approves $3 more billion worth of aid, what they should say is $3 billion more worth of loans. $3 billion more worth of loans. $286 million more worth of loans. This is the Lend-Lease Act. This is how we kept the Soviets, the British, and everybody else on this side of the Atlantic alive for World War II. The Russians would have starved to death, and the Brits would have too if it weren't for us leasing them huge stocks of food, guns, ammo. I saw a video the other day of Russians in a cave cracking open crates from World War II with brand new Thompson machine guns. You know where this came from?
That means
Lend-Lease Act. We sent them Tommy guns in World War II to fight the Nazis. They never got to that supply. They've been sitting in that cave rust-free for...
When did they stop using... Like, when did Tommy guns stop? I actually, like, other than video games and movies, didn't understand they were widely distributed in World War II, like, to just regular guys. It's always more of, like, in my head, like a gangster gun. You know? Like, with the big drum mag on the bottom. They're not even looking down the sight. Just
Bonnie and Clyde would have one.
Exactly. Al Capone standing there gunning up, lighting up somebody's house. Were they good guns? They look sweet. They might be the coolest looking gun ever.
I owned one. I had my own fully automatic Tommy gun. The drum mags I always found, or at least the ones I had, weren't too reliable. But those stick mags, and you can reload it fast, were really, really fun. Doesn't have a lot of
gun collection made its way to Ukraine, Kyle. We could arm a village.
Oh, they sent that to Mexico, I'm sure. They sent that, there's some cartel member with an FPSRussia fucking gun right now. I guarantee it. We ran that shit down there and forgot.
We're gonna see some guy with an in ISIS like standing over someone about to shoot him in the back of the head, and it's gonna say like AK from it's gonna say "Have nice day" on the side of it, and someone has his brain splattered on the sand.
Yeah, if you see like a chromed out fucking bullpup M14 or something. I think it's got my name on the side.
That one with the snow camo caused me so much fucking trouble.
Oh my god, yeah, I think that was the one. But yeah, we're lend-leasing that stuff to them. They owe us.
Do you think we'll get it back? I kind of thought it was like
the Brits just paid their debt off about a few years ago from World War II with interest.
Okay, they're a more successful country than Ukraine.
What we often do with African countries in particular is we forgive that debt. The next time we're trying to get them to do a thing, like, hey, how about we forget about the $8 billion in aid we gave you last decade, and you don't let these terrorists live here? And they're like, yes, this is a good deal. Yes, yes. They probably invited the terrorists to get out of the debt, but we're America, so we've got plenty of that kind of money to throw around. The CIA guy that I've been watching on YouTube was talking about, he was trying to capture this guy in Pakistan, and they were like, what do you need? He's like, I need 45 men. I need $2 million cash. I need
a bowl of
vehicles.
Green M&Ms.
He went through this.
Just make sure he read the contract.
It was cool as shit. It was like that. He went through this like cool ass like James Bond list of shit he needed. I need this kind of satellite coverage. I need these kind of phones. I need this, that, and the other. I need Overwatch. Blah blah blah. And the interviewer was like, $2 million. What's that for? He's like, I'm gonna bribe every motherfucker in Pakistan. Anybody that looks like they want some bribery money's getting it. He would just every step of the way. Hey, and keep your mouth shut about this. Hey, and do this, and just handing out wads of hundreds because he's got $2 million worth of bribe money.
Yeah,
can you imagine? Yeah, of course it is.
I wonder what $2 million looks like. I bet it fits in a brown paper bag, like a lunch bag,
like hundreds.
No, not a lunch bag.
Am I wrong?
2 million?
I could be.
All right. I say 2 million is like this, like a big old.
So you think it fits in a grocery bag, and I think it fits in a lunch bag.
Yeah,
I bet you could. Yeah, you could fit it in like a brown paper grocery bag.
Yeah, I guess we're considering like stacks of 10,000 and hundreds.